Okay, hello, and welcome to my review, my favorite part, the review of Attack on Titan, Season 4, Episode 1. So I'm doing my review and reaction in separate videos this time. I hope that it will work out for the best this way. And it ensures that my reaction part gets up as soon as possible. Thank you, Mike, for editing that. But I always have a lot to say when it comes to Attack on Titan. There are other anime as well that touch on topics that I have a lot to say about. And yeah, my favorite part is just having these discussions, letting my thoughts just go and hearing from you guys. Hopefully we can chat about everything in a respectful, spoiler-free way. I will do my best to articulate my thoughts as clearly as possible. Just take into account that it is my second language. I'm quite fluent, but it's still my second language, so there's there's words that sometimes I think they have a different meaning than they end up having. So just going into this, please realize that it's my second language, and also go into this knowing that I know that everything that I share is my own thoughts based on my own, not just experiences, but based on things that I've read before or thought about. So I know that nothing that I say is, I don't think that what I say is ever objectively true. Everything is just based on my personal opinions. And I hope we can both come from that place, you know? With regards to... Hi, Sky. My cat just entered the room and she's never in here, not Sky. With regards to philosophy, I think it's when you're talking about things, the kind of things that Attack on Titan addresses, I think it's best to just go into it, talking to each other, knowing that really we can't know anything. We can only talk about what we think we know, you know? Sky. There's a cat in there. Please don't let... Oh, God. I'm sorry. Let's hope she... I think there's a cat lying there, and I don't want her to... Come here. Say hello. There we go. And this is my Sky. She's my tiniest little baby. Not the youngest one, but definitely the smallest one. Why are you here? Are you hungry? Do you want to sleep here? I don't know. I don't know what she wants to do. Whoa, you jumped down from up there? Okay, sorry. I want to get started. I want to keep it relevant because there's so much to get through. I'm going to be chatting about, just briefly about my notes that I've already made up to now. And then also, I'm going to be going through the episode because I made a couple of notes and wrote down timestamps where I want to go back and reread some things they said, and then also take note of them in my notes, and we can discuss them as I go through. And then also I'm going to score the episode at the end. So that is going to be the content of this video. Let's just start first by briefly discussing my rewatch. So I've been rewatching Attack on Titan. Like I said in the reaction video at the beginning, I haven't finished the rewatch. I'm currently... let me show you what my notes look like. So these are my notes. You can find the link in the description. I've made it up to episode 54. So if from episode 55, I still need to rewatch and make my notes. I will be doing that and finishing off these episodes before episode 2 begins. I will be writing some notes in here during this review from season 4, episode 1, overall episode 60. But I think if you truly want to understand my opinion on the show, and I think a lot of things that I'm going to touch on or speak about, I will have also addressed briefly in the notes at some point. So if you truly want to understand like all of my thoughts, I would recommend reading my notes, but I'm going to try and talk about things as they pop up again, and if it relates to something I've mentioned or talked about before, I will try and find it in my notes and go through it again so that you guys understand where I'm coming from, because I feel like a lot of my opinions that I've shared up to this point, a lot of people didn't like, and I think I went into them in more detail so that you can at least understand where I'm coming from. And I don't know if that will influence my reviews or how I deliver or what I say, but I'm going to try my best to, when I refer back to something I've explained in the notes, I will at least try to go and get the page number. So if you don't want to go through all the notes now, then you could just listen to these videos as like a podcast or something while you're busy doing something else, and you'll still understand the context within which I'm trying to speak. Okay, so let's start by just sharing my final thoughts on my favorite characters from season 1 to 3. So I've been making lists as I was going along. Maybe just like this. So after finishing season 1, my favorites list looked like this: Eren, Mikasa, Armin, Erwin, Jean, Hanj, Hitch, Krista, and Sasha. I almost want to add Ymir, but I don't really remember feeling anything particular about her this season on the rewatch. Then I watched up to episode 41 and I decided, okay, I'm going to remake my list. And now it's changed a bit. Erwin at the top, Eren, Mikasa, Armin, Jean, Historia, Hannes got added, Hanj, Sasha, Levi, Marlo, Pixis. Okay, but I don't know, those two might be, I might need to switch them, I'm not sure. But if that's the list I made at that point, I guess that's where I'm at, or where I was at. Now, it's a little bit more difficult with my most recent list. I made it briefly before, because I forgot to make it. So I made it briefly before doing my review now. I watched episode 54 today, finished watching it. And this is how I feel about my favorites now. I didn't keep including Hitch because I liked her. She was funny, like an interesting character, but it's not like she's not a lasting favorite, so I didn't continue to include her on the list. But anyway, my list as of here: Erwin, still my favorite character from the show. Eren, still my second favorite. Armin overtook Mikasa. Jean overtook Mikasa in season 3, part 2 especially. But I haven't watched the last couple of episodes. Mikasa, Levi overtook Hanj. Sasha, Connie, Historia. Although Historia probably is still above Sasha, but most recently I've been seeing more of these two, and that really puts them at the front part of my mind. Hannes, Marlo, and Pixis. So I think that's more or less all my favorite characters. I hope I didn't forget anyone. But now we started season 4 and it's completely different characters, and immediately off the bat I want to say I like that kid with the blonde hair that helped their enemy. I forgot his name. It's Colt is the older one, and then the other one was called I forget his name. I'll write it down, but that kid is already on my favorites list. I really like his character, and I can see that throughout the season. If it's going to be focused mostly on the other side of the sea, and we're not going to get much, or if anything, of our main characters, or the characters that were main up until this point, that kid is going to make it worth it for me. I hope that sounds okay. Okay, so first up, I wrote here, check bottom of previous page. While I was watching a different anime today, at a certain point in the episode, something happened, and it made me think of the Attack on Titan opening. So how it worked was, tonight I recorded my reaction to the opening, the season 4 opening, which was posted on YouTube early. And I posted that video to YouTube. Then it was like 8 o'clock and Attack on Titan was going to air at 11. So before that, I recorded reactions to a different show. Okay, and in the second episode of that show, something happened which made me think of the Attack on Titan opening. You know the part where the birds are falling? It has to... I didn't really understand its meaning when I watched the opening for the first time, but it's clear if you think about it for 2 seconds. This is going to, if you just look at the opening, this is going to be a season that's all about war. You know, war is, I don't even have the words to, what do you even, it's so far removed from my reality because I've never been part of a war. It seems so unreal. Like, you see these shows and these literal wars happening here right in front of you. I've seen movies where wars have been fought. That I saw one movie about the actor from Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield. I think he was in that movie. I don't like watching movies about war because it's so heart-wrenching. It's so, because you know that this shit happened and it still happens all around the world, and it could happen at any moment. And it's to me, war is like it's the worst possible thing. It's the worst possible thing. And I feel every single person, it should be our, not, people should not want to go to war. We should do everything in our power to avoid freaking war. But on the other hand, then I realized, you know, imagine bad things are happening to your people. If the only answer is war, but war in self-defense, but I just mean before that, before it even gets to the point where one side is attacking another side, because if the other side attacks back, I don't count that as, well, then you shouldn't do war because it'll make it worse to fight back. No, fighting back to self-defense is not the same thing to me as, when I say try and prevent war, I mean literally try and prevent even things getting to the point where the other side attacks you. Like, dialogue should be where it's at. And I even made it, because this is something I so strongly believe in, and let me just finish my sentence. It's something I so strongly believe in. My banner on Twitter is the following quote from Dalai Lama XIV 14 XIV. Is that 14? I don't know. It says, peace does not mean an absence of conflict. Differences will always be there. Peace means solving these differences through peaceful means, through dialogue, education, knowledge, and humane ways. So, of course, I'm not saying, you know, if you're being attacked by someone, you should try to reason with them. Like, sometimes if someone's attacking you, the only thing you can do is to fight back. But as far as possible, I just believe it's really important to try and avoid things getting even that far. But we're people at the end of the day. I wonder if it's even possible, because even if you're trying to reason, if the other side fights back and you start fighting back, and then it becomes this whole cycle. And I think that's what Attack on Titan is about. It's this cycle of one side fighting and the other side fighting, and both sides just hating, and it just perpetuating, and then the oppressors becoming the oppressed, and the oppressed becoming the oppressors, and then just the whole cycle of suffering repeating itself. And where and how do you break it? And that's why that character, the little blonde boy, he seems to be like the kind of person that could break that cycle, hopefully. Okay, but what I was trying to say about the other anime that I was talking about, where the birds were falling from the sky, it was as a result of poison in the air, you know, atomic bombs. So when I saw that in the other anime, I realized that in this anime, when the birds were falling out of the sky, it's an illustration, a symbol of, it hints towards, you know, war, atomic bombs, poison, all that kind of stuff. It's a very, and in my reaction when I saw the opening for the first time, all I said was it's very ominous. But now I realize that what it could point to is that exact war. It's just more results from war and the bad side of humanity, you know, polluting the air, bombs going off, birds dying. I don't understand why this thing keeps making that humming noise. But anyway, so it was just interesting when I watched the other anime and I saw that happening as a result of a bomb. When I thought of the opening, I was like, oh, that's why the birds are falling from the sky, possibly. But okay, so let's begin. I can put that there. Let's start with 105. So what I'm going to be doing is writing the timestamps just in my notes like this, 105, and then I'm going to go to the part in the episode where what was being said. Oh, one more thing. I've forgotten a few details because, like I said, I haven't finished the last couple of episodes of season 3 part 2, so there might be one or two things that with regards to Eldians and Marlians and that I might just be lacking a little bit of information on because I've forgotten, because I haven't watched season 3 part 2 in over a year. When did it air? I don't remember, but I will be watching it over the next couple of days. So if I've forgotten anything in the next few days when I watch the last couple of episodes, I will be reminded, and then next time I'll come back to it and I'll be able to review these things in better detail, better knowledge, coming from better knowledge, I hope. Okay, so this was just about, let's see here if I need to write this down. It was a direct hit. Boy. The Eldian unit at the front got blown away. So when I first started watching, this was a little bit confusing to me. Not confusing to me, but I felt it was important. But I realize now, Eldians, Marlians, how the Marlians feel about the Eldians. They're using the Eldians literally as a meat shield because for the Marlians, Eldians' lives are worthless. So they would, that's why the Eldian unit, those units are being used for suicide missions, basically. And that one guy at one point in the episode was saying, why did he get shot? You Eldians are supposed to soak up all the bullets. So it really just shows how they're treated by the Marlians at this point, because we know that Marlians see it like this happening in front of us right now. Those their enemies being eaten by the Titans and stuff. That is what happened to our people, and they carry that anger and resentment, and that's why now they treat other Eldians who have nothing to do with that war. They treat them still like as if everything's their fault, as if they're meant to be held accountable for the sins of their forefathers. But you know, we don't know. I don't remember much about that war, why it happened. So I'm gonna just rewatch the last couple of episodes and then I'll come back to these thoughts. But either way, the Marlians seeing the Eldians in this light is wrong. Wrong. You cannot hold anyone accountable for things that their parents did. That angers me so much. And I have talked about that in more depth in previous seasons. Or I wouldn't say I've talked about it in more depth, but it is something that I know I've gotten worked up about before because of, you know, even our history in South Africa. So I won't go into things more at this point, but it's just the Eldians being used as meat shields. It's terrible. But war itself is terrible. So it sucks that this whole thing is happening, but it seems to be happening because our defeat brought about this war. That is what Zeke said to Reiner. So because, as far as I could tell, and I want to say correct me if I'm wrong, but don't spoil me. As far as I understand it, when their whole mission to eradicate humanity within the walls failed, and they lost the female Titan and the colossal Titan. That was seen as the Marlian army had the whole war started because of that, and the other side thought, oh, they're weak, we should get them now, and that's why the war started. So 9 years ago they failed. The other side, the Marlians and Aldeans here are fighting against, they heard about it, found out about it somehow, thought this is our chance to strike, and because they're weak now, or they're weaker than they were. And then 4 years ago, this battle started. So 9 years ago, 9 years ago, they failed. And then 5 years later, this war began because of that failure, because they were seen as weakened. Okay, so that's how I understood all of that. And now they're all caught up in this war for power. What is war? Why war? That's a question. Why war? Why does war... I mean, war has been started for various reasons in the past, and that is something I would like to get into. Why does war happen? In our own history, what has been the causes? What has been causes of war? We know from the episode that this war began 4 years ago because I don't know what to call, like, they, when I say they, I mean, you know, we have the Marlians and Aldeans, and then they were fighting the other guys, so I'm just going to call them the other guys for now. I don't really understand. I don't really know if we know, do they have a name? I don't know. So we know from the episode that this war began 4 years ago because they thought that Marley's armed forces were weakened, loss of female Titan and colossal Titan. But why were they fighting in the first place? Money? Power? It could be religion. We don't know why. Well, at this point, I don't remember. In real life, I don't know much about history, so I don't really understand why wars have happened in the past. But it usually comes down to power, conquering, you know, your enemies, getting more. I don't know. I need to. In this week, I will make some time to Google reasons why war have happened. What have caused wars? But it's usually, it's not just one thing. But before I talk more about that, I'll have to Google and learn a little bit. Learn from Google. That girl, Gabi, said this battle is the climax of the war that was started 4 years ago. So it seems like this episode concluded that war. They won, and now they have as it said at the end here of the episode, the other side. Did they say their names? Actually, let me see here. Oh, where is it now? With their fleet destroyed, the Mid-East Allied Forces. Okay, so they are the Mid-East Allied Forces signed a peace treaty with Marley. Okay, so let me just write in my notes that they The Mid-East Allied forces thought Marty's armed forces were weakened, loss of blah, blah, blah. But why were they fighting the proselytes? Money, power, religion. We don't know yet. I don't know yet why. Why did they want to fight them when they learned about their forces being weakened? Okay. Next up, 122. It's just something that I wanted to write down. 122. Watch your tone with Commander Magath, you mutt. What did I want to write down here? Oh, it was just about how he's being treated. At this rate. Falco. Oh, it's Falco. So the blonde kid that I like, that I'm already putting on my favorite characters of list. Where's my favorite characters list? I'm already putting him on here. Well, I'll make a list later and then I'll add him on there. Okay. It was just about how they were treated. I think that's what I wanted to write down. Do you remember this war we've been in for 4 years? 256. So this is clearly more or less this little group is what Reiner, Berthold, Annie, they've probably went through similar things. I don't know if there was a war back then as well, or were they just being trained to be part of an in-case war? So what's the deal? Why they send us warrior candidates to the front lines? So this is obviously, not obviously, but Gabi said that it's a test. So they're just being tested to see who's going to inherit the armored titan powers. And that's because, as far as I'm aware, you can only live when you get the titan powers, you can only live for a certain amount of time. And since Reiner has had it for like since he was there training 3 + 9, it's been like 12 years, and I think you can only live for like 13 years after you get it. I don't remember the exact time. I'll find it out when I rewatch the last couple of episodes. I think it was in a letter from Ymir to Historia where we learn that they only have a certain amount of time. So Reiner's time is running out anyway, and that's why they're being tested as to who's going to inherit that power. I'm not going to write all of this down. I'm just talking about it to process it. 320. The plan to conquer Paradis needs a main player. And that, as far as I remember, the plan to conquer Paradis, I don't know how to say it. That's the walls, right? That's Wolmeria, Rose, and Sheena. Is that area called the Paradis? I'm assuming it is, because they want to conquer. Conquer is the wrong word. You want to like exterminate, I guess. I don't know what your plans is, but I'm assuming that it is that's the place. But once again, I need to rewatch, so I'm just going to write that down. The plan to conquer Paradis needs a main player. Someone needs to inherit the armored titans' powers so that they can continue this plan to eradicate everyone within the walls. Why? I don't know. I forgot. But I think I'll be reminded once I finish the last 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, the last 5 episodes. At this point, I haven't had time to rewatch them. make my notes. Okay. 7:14. I made a timestamp there. 7:14. Really like the visuals. It looks very similar to, well, not really. It's definitely, it has more of a realistic sense than previous seasons, but it's not so different that I feel, whoa, I'm watching a different show, you know? So I like that. 7:14, 7:14. Here we go. Even one of the 9. So one of the 9 is about the Titans. Once again, I wrote it down because I know it's important, but it's something that I'm sure the last 5 episodes of season 3 part 2 will remind me about. So I'm not gonna go talk about that right now. Then I just here have a note about 9 years ago. So did I already write that? Season 3 part 2 seems to have the events from season 3 part 2 seems to have happened 9 years ago at this point in the story. Okay, so that's just important to remember with regards to ages and stuff. I don't remember how old they were back then, but now they're in their late 20s, I guess. So that's going to be quite interesting to see. No wonder they were almost unrecognizable to me when I watched the trailer. Okay, next up, 803. The power of the Titans is absolute and it must always remain that way. That is very important. And at the end, Armin, well, the narrator said the opposite of this. So I'm just going to screenshot. This is me. Okay, this is funny that this pops up. Sotos added my face onto a clip of a music video. And then I was like, damn, I look nice as boobs. So it's a reface app or something. And he's been adding everyone's faces on everything. So that's why that's there. Let me just say, it's not, it's a bit weird. Sorry. Fuck off. There we go. The power of the Titans is absolute and it must always remain that way. So this is quite a contrast with what Armin / narrator person says at the end. So I'm just going to save it for now. I just think that it's important to remember. I've blah 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 2205. Okay, then I didn't, this was all just her plan being carried out. She seems like a very, you know, useful Gabi. I mean, she seems like a very useful soldier, but children should not be fighting wars. So sad that she's in that position to begin with. This seems to be quite an interesting character, and I can't wait to meet them and learn more about them. The person behind the Titan, behind the mask. But yeah, it's not something that's fun to watch, but it's interesting because at least, you know, in this case it's not real, but you know that it might as well be because this shit happens. It's terribly sad. And child warriors, you know, that is something that we could talk about, because obviously she's taught to do these things, and children can be very dangerous in war. So how do you even approach? So let's say the other side, the Mideast, what they call them, the Mideast Allied forces. Let's say they won or they captured one of these kids. What do you do with a child like that? And that's something I did address a bit slightly in my notes at some point earlier in, I will have to go to reread and see which page it's on, but you know, children obviously cannot be held accountable to the same extent that an adult should be held accountable for their actions. But if you don't hold a child accountable for their actions, at least to some extent, even if they were just carrying out the orders of some adult, I think children should still, it's such a difficult discussion because it's so far out of anything that I've ever dealt with in real life. But I can only think that children that have been through these kinds of things, she looks like 13 at this point. I don't know when, I'll have to Google that too. I don't know when our reason starts developing, or our, you know, when do you become an adult? Some cultures believe it's at 18, some cultures believe it's at 21. But I mean, there's not just one morning when you wake up and, oh, now you're an adult. It's something that you develop over time. But, you know, just to be able to live our lives, we need obviously to have rules like don't murder, don't this, don't that. But what if someone breaks those rules? And like I said, I discussed it in more depth in my notes. I'll try and find the page for it. But if someone does break the rules, there should be consequences in order to, otherwise, there's no point in having rules. So once again, I don't think that a child should be held accountable to the same extent as an adult. But when does the child become an adult? You know, when do we start treating them differently? But what should the consequences in the first place be? Yes, it should be different for adults versus children that do these kinds of things, or we're told to do these kinds of things. But we know they should be different, but how different? And how do you then, what do you do with a child then that has been the pawn of a war and clearly bad people that are using them, telling them, oh, you're a terrible, evil race and you need to redeem yourself for what other people did. And then this child actually believing that and doing bad things in order to redeem themselves in the eyes of these people. Like, now imagine that child is then saved from those circumstances. How do you then, even by the other side, let's say the other side is actually, I don't know about these Mid-East blah blah people, but let's say that kid is now rescued. Imagine Aaron and them, now they had a fight with, and this kid is left behind, and now she believes that she's meant to kill them. It's exactly what happened with Reiner and Bertolt. Now, what do they now? But in this case, they know that this girl is like Reiner and Bertolt was. Clearly, they don't want to just kill her. Just like Armin tried to reason with Bertolt that one time, but Bertolt, there was no reasoning with him at that point. He was an adult, at least, I don't know, 17, 18 at that point. And at that, I don't know, I believe when you're 17, 18, you're definitely more accountable than a 13, 14-year-old. And Armin wanted to reason with him, but he was like, are you willing to die? Are you willing to, all we want two simple things. Hand Aaron over to us and then die, because that's what we want. And then everyone was like, what the fuck? That's not negotiating. And Bertolt even said, I know you did nothing wrong, but I'm going to kill you anyway. And when it comes to that point, they were mid a fight. So what do you do? In that, when the guy is coming at you, he's shown he doesn't want to negotiate. All you can do is defend yourself, fight back. He's trying to kill you, you're going to have to try and kill him. But let's say if a younger kid like Gabi, there was a fight, she gets left behind, and now she's out of the circumstances where she was taught a certain kind of way, to think a certain kind of way about people. How do you just focus on reform? Is there a sense of punishment? What even is reform? Does it go hand in hand with punishment? And if yes, what kind of punishment do you mean? Isolation, jail? I don't believe in physical punishment. I don't believe in torture and shit like that. How do you you can't just have punishment without reform, especially for a 14-year-old kid. I don't know how old she is. Please don't bombard me with, well, she's not 14. Like, I know, I'm not sure how old she is, but I'm just guessing here. These are the kinds of things that we need to know so that hopefully we can, if there's something like this happens, we can change things without always just resorting to becoming exactly what you're fighting against, you know. But these aren't things I have answers for. I'm not saying I have answers. I'm saying these are the things that are going on in my head when I see these things play out. So anyway, I'm interested in that character and who he is. Her, she, looks like a he. I don't know. If, you know, we had the female Titan power. If a girl eats the person that has the, let's say Gabi eats Reiner and she gets the armor Titan power, well, the armor Titan, it will take on probably more or less, since it looks kind of like he has the hair of, it will probably kind of take on her shape in some way or form. Maybe a little. Maybe it's just the hair and but there wasn't just one female Titan, right? So I'm quite curious about how that's going to look. But this, so I'm assuming this is a guy only because the Titan appears to be a guy. But if a girl eats a Titan with power, and the power, there's only one female Titan, all the rest have male bodies, then it's not to say that this is a male character. But the point is, I'm just very interested to find out who it is and what they're like. I dislike Zeke a lot. I dislike Reiner, I have to admit. I know people hate me for saying it. I dislike Reiner. He's a great, well-written character, brilliantly written and what. But I meaning I don't like him. And I know I've received a lot of hate for that in the past. But I can't. I tried on my rewatch to see it from other people's perspectives. Manga readers kept telling me, wait until you see their backstory and then you'll understand. I tried to just like think to myself, you know, I don't know what they went through. And I said it multiple times, until I find out that the reason that they're doing this is because their families are being held captive and they have to, then I can at least at that point be like, oh, it sucks that they had to do all of that. And I can understand to some extent. But up until this point, I cannot feel like that much sympathy for them because they spent time with those inside the walls. They knew they did nothing wrong. They were comrades, like, and they still didn't. They could have. There was so much they could do differently, and I can only still feel angry because I don't know that their families are being held captive at this point. It seems from this episode that is more or less the case. There was something about she wants to free people from a certain place or what. But I still can't help, you know, how I feel towards Reiner and Berthold and everything that they did. I can't excuse those actions based on what I know at this point. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, I dislike Zeke. I dislike Reiner. And I'm hoping that those inside the walls will be able to stop this perpetuated freaking war. Just like this kid, they need this kid, this what's his name? Maybe if I go to any list, there we go. Look at all these people. Attack on Titan. Final season. Falco. Him. I like him a lot. And I'm hoping that someone like him can make an actual difference. Instead of just... Because he's coming from the same side as Reiner and Berthold, and yet he was willing to help the enemy. Even when the enemy was saying, don't touch me, you devil. Because after all this war, that's how they see each other. But he could look past that. He said, this guy is not a threat to me. And if only more people could do that, I think it would change so much even in our world. But in this world here, I'm hoping that those from within the walls, because all they've been doing for as long as I've been watching was trying to defend themselves. They didn't know why Titans were attacking them. They didn't know why they were confined in these walls. They had their memories taken away and everything. So I'm hoping that when they find out more, they don't just... I'm hoping that they take this... There will be more people like Falco that... when they don't need to fight, they don't continue fighting. But easier said than done, right? Then I just wrote here, can you love those who hate you? There is power in that. And that's what came to mind when I saw Falco helping, you know, the enemy. And I think there was recently something that I watched where we talked about that, but I don't remember what it was. But it's a very deep discussion there. You know, it makes you think kind of Gandhi with, you know, how he was like a pacifist and what do you call someone who's against violence? Is that a pacifist? But personally, I think someone like that, a true pacifist, I think would be like, even if someone's attacking you, you don't attack back. And I can understand how that could. I recently watched an episode of Assassination Classroom in season 2 where something like that happens, similar, where, you know, someone was being attacked, and I could only imagine attacking them back, defending yourself. But a true pacifist, if I have the right word here, wouldn't solve the problem with violence. And in that episode, it was so beautifully shown. But in that episode, it wasn't some stranger attacking you. It was a different situation. So you can't apply that to something like war, where you just have people attacking you for what? Because you believe something different? Because you're different in some way? Because what? For money, power, land? It's so difficult. That's why you want to get to the point where you can solve conflicts, because conflicts will always be there, but you want to be the kind of person and in the kind of situation where conflicts can be solved through humane ways, dialogue, discussion, education. And by education, I don't mean brainwashing kids. Mostly, but anyway, but what about when someone is like within the walls? People were just attacking them. Reiner and Bertolt, they didn't know, Eren and them, they didn't know why they were being attacked, and Bertolt and them was just, from their perspective at least, just out of nowhere. So what do you do then? You can only defend yourself. Armin at least tried to reason and negotiate, but when the other side is not willing to do that, and like Bertolt said, are you willing to hand Eren over to us and die? Because that was all they wanted. They didn't want to negotiate. So in that case, what do? Then non-violence and pacifism is not an option. At least from my perspective. I don't know if some religions I know believe in total non-violence, but I can't imagine not fighting back in that situation. Yes, I want to do everything in my power to stop it before it gets to that point. But what then? Like in the case of when Bertolt said, are you willing to die? Then the only other note that I have here is who is at the end, which is this person. I feel like maybe I'm supposed to know, or at least have a hint about who this is, but I don't. Maybe after I watch the last couple of episodes, I will be I will have a hint as to who this is. So for now, I'm just going to screenshot and save. I'm just writing in, this quote is in contrast with what the narrator Armin's voice said at the end. I'll write it down in a second. Who is this? I wonder if I watched the last couple of episodes of season 3 part 2. Will I have a hint about who it may be? Whoa, I know who it is. It's Jean. I know who it is. You know why I think I know? Because he has a little bit is Jean's hair color and Jean's jaw. Because he's 9 years older, so that's a man's jaw, but it looks like Jean. And here is, I did see Attack on Titan season 4 visual. So there was like visuals, like previews. I think it's this one that I was thinking of. Let me just open this here. Oopsie. Open. Fuck. Open. Image new tab. So I've seen this image, and that's Armin. And I've never looked too closely at it, but I've seen it. And today I saw it again, and that is the same person. Look at that. That's Jean, right? I mean, I don't know, but that's Connie, Mikasa, Armin, Sasha, Aaron, Levi, and the only other person that was heavily prevalent in the last episode that I watched, which was episode 454, and Jean had just increasingly become such a great character. He has so many great moments, and he really stands out here. That's definitely him. And then, yep, that's definitely Jean. So what's he doing there? How did he get there? This is 9 years, so theory, it's Jean. Okay, that's everything that I wanted to talk about and write down, more or less. One day after the season ends, and I will probably do another rewatch and do more in-depth notes once, because the best part about rewatching is you see things from a bigger perspective. So when you watch episode by episode, I still need to score it this episode, and I will, but when you watch episode by episode, you should only watch this episode and think of what you've seen before, and then the next episode you watch this episode and what you've seen before. Once you finish the whole story, then you have the big picture. So then when you rewatch, you can rewatch and you've seen everything that comes, and you've seen everything that's been, so I can review it and talk about things from that perspective, and it's so much more interesting. So right now the notes for these episodes are going to be very little bit, and then one day, like I've been doing with my rewatch now, I will, once the whole show has settled, and maybe even I'll read the manga first, and then I'll rewatch season 4 from the perspective of I've seen everything now, and I'm rewatching. Now I can write about it from that perspective, and it's gonna be really great. Okay, now I can score the episode. Overall, a very great episode in my opinion. Sky, she's sitting there. I wonder if she's hungry, but I'm sure she ate just a while ago. So let's begin with characters. Very interested in Falco. Gabi is an interesting character. I'm gonna give... I kind of just want to give the whole episode a 9. Just... It's so difficult to... Usually I break it down into... This is my opinion of the story. This is my opinion of the characters. Visuals, audio, enjoyment. But to be honest... This is the introduction. This is the first episode of season 4. And it's not even... It's like a new story. Because it's still part of the story that we've known. But... It's so, how do you judge the story and the characters if you have nothing but this to base it on? So I kind of just want to say, as an introduction to the season, I'd say it's at least a 9 out of 10. Actually, visuals I want to give 9.5. Audio I want to give 9.5. I don't think they could have done better for this episode. It was near perfect. Voice acting is... I mean, there wasn't a lot of moments to shine yet, but I think they're doing a good job, a really good job. It's just like, I think it was near perfect. They couldn't really do anything better. So, just give story 9, characters 9 for introduction. Enjoyment, 9. So, that gives us an overall... 9.2 for this episode. 9.2 out of 10. It's a very great start, and I'm very intrigued to find out if the whole season is going to be about this side. Maybe we'll have 2 parts, or maybe the first half of the season will be this side, and the other half of the season will be that side, and then it'll be brought together. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm very intrigued, and I'm very happy about Falco's character because I feel like I might have been a little more disappointed that we didn't get anything from the characters we know and love. I know and love. I think I would have been more disappointed if I didn't have this kind of character that intrigued me and I was like, yes, this, more of this. So I'm very excited to see more from him, and I think that, yeah, even if for half of the season we don't get anything from the other side, I'll be okay as long as there's focus on Falco. Okay, that's it from me. My 1 hour review, 9.2 out of 10 in my opinion for the episode as an introduction to a new season. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and your scores. Bye.